Hello everyone, how are we all doing today? 3 Mixing Wednesdays for you today. So on this video I'm going to be doing a vocal leveler shootout. Yes, that's right, we all do love a vocal leveler shootout. So I'm going to be doing the 1176 LA2A trick. I already have my 1176, so there's a video about 1176 shootouts, you can go watch that out. I'll put a link to it, but yes, we are going to be doing a shootout today between the XLA-3A from Opticom, the ACUSTICA El Rey, can't remember, the Arturia STA level, and the MJUC from Klanghelm. Roll that VT. So yes, I'll try and make it quick. So very quickly, the 1176 LA2A trick is something that people have been doing on lead vocals for a long time. You get the 1176 style compressed, like a FET compressor, fast release, fast attack, and it catches all like the peaks, right? The really fast peaks. So it catches the start of the note, and then you then smooth that out with like an optical compressor like a LA2A. However, I've been using LA2As, and there are tons of different optical compressors like it. So I'm going to be having an LA2A in here, which is in the form of the XLA3. Yes, everybody will say
it's actually doing the LA3A.
Right, if you actually do your research, which I normally don't do, and the XLA3 is actually trying to emulate an LA2A. So we've got an LA2A, right? That's probably one of the best on the market you can get, especially in Plug and Alliance, because you get it free in your bundle. And then I've got the Arturia STA level. The Arturia STA level is one of the most popular out there. The hardware is very hard to come by. And Retro, they do a hardware emulation of the gates, and I think the Arturia STA level is trying to emulate that. And then you've kind of got its older brother, which is coming in the form of the MJUC from Klanghelm. That's doing the Lray 176, not the 1176. There is a difference. The Lray 176, which again Retro have again done a hardware emulation of that, and that's what the MJUC preset 2 is emulating. It's emulating the Retro version of the Lray 176. And then we've got the El Rey. Now this is the one that you're all going to probably be tuning in for, because everybody goes on about the El Rey. The El Rey is based, it's acoustic audio. We all know how much I'm starting to love acoustic audio now. It's based on the Greg Wells RCA compressor. It's no, Greg Wells didn't make a compressor. It is Greg Wells's Greg Wells RCA compressor, and it's a very old compressor, and he uses it on nearly all of his mixes. Funnily enough though, he does have a 176 as well, okay? So if he's not using the RCA, he's using the Retro 176, because I did see that on a video he did. So we've got the MJUC and we've got the El Rey as well. So let's just get straight into it and see which one we actually prefer. Right, okay, so let's hear these things side by side. Right, so in case you were an absolute numpty and you decided to skip my intro, very quickly, the compressors are all set the same way. The slowest attack, mid-release, doing about 5 to 7 dB gain reduction, and they are going after a V76 U73B, fast attack, fast release, and that's doing about 3 to 4 to 5 dB compression. Okay, so chaining the two of them together, let's hear what the MJUC, Opticom, and STA level sound like one after the other.
There is a man in my dream knocking on my head, and I've given all I have to be given. He never says that much, just looks at me with disgust that withers into anger. Who are these figurines that rest upon my pillow, flying in the night, doing nothing right? What does all this mean? If I wake them, will they follow? Never will I know where they go. Do they go? No, I never knew why. We were only passing ships.
Right, okay, so on first listen, what can you hear? You can definitely hear that the Opticom definitely has the most warmth and probably the most bass boost in there. If you really dial back the release time of the Opticom, it kind of does this kind of smudgy thing. It's like people would call it like it's smoothing it out. You lose kind of all of the transients of the vocal, just almost like it's kind of got a little bit of a smudge to it, and it's a little bit smeary. Where if you kind of dial it in, where it's like a mid-release, it sounds a little bit more clearer. And I kind of think that adds a lot of colour, and that's what a lot of people use this for. A lot of people use the Opticom for the colour of it, like an LA2A. LA2As are very, very, very coloured, so it is doing a very good job at emulating that. But for me, I want clarity out of the vocal, so I like the warmth out of it. I just prefer the clarity and the cleanliness of the star level in the MJUC. But I think that the slight little saturation, that little bit of graininess that the MJUC has, allows the vocal, in terms of the consonants of the vocal, it just stands out a little more. The k. It just stands out a little bit more. The extra little bit of warmth would probably make it stand out just a little bit more in the mix. However, I do like the cleanliness of the star level. It is smoother. It definitely is smoother to me. I say definitely smoother. They're so similar. But critical listening, I would say at the star level is the slight little bit more smoother. So knowing that difference, so we're saying the star level is the cleanest, and we're saying that the MJUC is similar to that. It's got a little bit more warmth, but it's probably got the most clarity in terms of like the consonants. And then we've got the Opticom that's got the most warmth. So really, we should be able to tell the Opticom standing out like a sore thumb. So let's do a blind test and let's see the difference.
There is a man in my dream knocking on my head, and I've given all I have to be given. He never says that much, just looks at me with disgust that withers into anger. Who are these figurines that rest upon my pillow, flying in the night, doing nothing right? What does all this mean? If I wake them, will they follow? Never will I know where they go. Do they go? No, I never knew why. We were only passing ships in the night, ignoring all the other.
Okay, so I got the MJUC right, but I got the Opticom and the star level. Now, this is the thing about the blind test. This is the reason why I love it so much, is that through the Audient ID14 converters, I can hear the differences much better. So I do suggest you do listen to this via a better headphone setup or good speaker setup. But look at that, I said that the Opticom and the star level were kind of really different from each other, but actually I found it quite difficult to tell the difference between the two, because when you're doing a blind test, you kind of just get masked by what you think you're looking for. So I would say the good thing is I did kind of say that MJUC stood out for me more in terms of the consonants, and again it was really smooth, it still has the cleanliness in. So interesting how I couldn't tell the difference between the star level and the Opticom. So maybe you could, again, let me down in the comments. But again, it shows you the similarities of these plugins. So when people fight so much over these plugins that are very, very similar. Interesting. Very interesting. Right, so MJUC is one I could pick out. I did think it's probably something the best to me. So what we're going to do now is we are going to add in something different. We're going to add in the Lray. Now the Lray is, for anybody that doesn't know, again I mentioned it earlier, it's Greg Wells' own compressor, the RCA compressor. Now the reason I did the Opticom, MJUC and star level together was because I know that they all sound similar, and really you can only tell the difference when it's side by side 1 to 2. When it's 3, you become very confused, and that's when normally you know if something really does stand out more than the other. So now there's the time to see the difference, to say, is there a difference between the RCA compared to like the star level, the Uri 176 and an LA2A, all kind of the same kind of style compressors. Now let's see what kind of difference we've got going on here.
There is a man in my dream knocking on my head, and I've given all I have to be given. He never says that much, just looks at me with disgust that withers into anger. Who are these figurines that rest upon my pillow, flying in the night, doing nothing right? What does all this mean? If I wake them, will they follow? Never will I know where they go. Do they go? No one ever knew why. We were only passing ships in the night, ignoring all the other.
Now you could hear the differences more, but again, still very, very similar. Now, what you will hear is that the MJUC is clearer to me in terms of how the kind of clarity of the vocal. I think they're kind of on the same kind of wavelength here, but I do think the MJUC is just slightly a little bit clearer on that front as well in those mids. I do like the low end warmth. There's definitely a boost bump in the Lray. It's not massive, but it makes it a little bit darker, which I think is quite difficult. The easiest way to tell will be in the blind test. Again, this is all subjective. When you get to this point, so say like when you're doing the test that I'm doing here, I'm not saying that one's better than the other. I can tell you which one I prefer, but when you get to this, the differences are so close and the compressors are so good. One isn't better than the other. It just all comes down to taste. So let's do a blind test and let's see if I can actually hear that difference in a blind test.
There is a man in my dream knocking on my head, and I've given all I have to be given. He never says that much, just looks at me with disgust that withers into anger. Who are these figurines that rest upon my pillow, flying in the night, doing nothing right? What does all this mean? If I wake them, will they follow? Never will I know where they go. Do they go? No one ever knew why. We were only passing ships.
Some parts that was almost indistinguishable. So close. Right, let's just see what we got here. No. Right, there you go. It's too close. It's just too close. Very interesting indeed. I hate these tests. I hate them. Okay, so let's go back to the studio. Let's wrap this up. Right, so as always, that was very interesting, wasn't it? It's interesting how it was like,
Oh yes, the Arturia STA level is, yes, it's definitely the cleanest, definitely the smoothest, and I probably would say that probably the OPTICOM XLA-3 is actually has the least clarity, maybe a little bit harsh.
and then I got the two of them mixed up. That's what blind tests are for. It takes the perceptual listening out of it, okay? So even still, I picked out the MJUC because I could still hear that little bit extra clarity. As I said, in kind of the consonants is the way I put it. You can kind of hear the vocal coming out a little bit more. It's a little bit clearer. And I knew that the MJUC had that quality as well. And then when I put the two of them together, it was like, I could hear the difference. I could definitely hear the difference, and nope, couldn't hear the difference, because the two of them are very, very, very similar. What I did find interesting is that the MJUC is 22 quid. I say all the time, MJUC is 22 quid, and I'd still use the MJUC because obviously you've got the issue of the CPU usage with acoustic audio. That's the reason why like so many people go daft about the MJUC, especially the URI 176. It's just an amazing plugin. The clarity of it, it's smooth as well. It's clear. It's just brilliant. It's just fantastic. Side by side, you can kind of hear subtle differences between the Lray and the MJUC, but in a mix, I'm going to tell you, you're not telling a difference. I need to get a stamp that just kind of goes, can't tell the difference in a mix. Certified by Paul III. You're not going to hear the difference in a mix. Your listener it's not going to be a big enough difference for your listener to tell the difference. So I'm going to end this video by saying, which kind of leveling amplifier should you go for your vocals? I'm going to tell you, it doesn't really matter. They are all so good and all very, very, very similar. if you get a good LA2A, you get like a star level, you get an MJUC, you get an Lray, they're all going to do the same job and they're all going to sound really, really good if you set them right. I am an audio engineer out my nut, especially doing that local mix that I did for free because I'm trying to build obviously like a wee portfolio and help the music scene in the local area. So I'm a bit mixed out this week, but yes, 3 videos for you guys. So most importantly, like, because that'll help this video go up the YouTube algorithm as well. Obviously, the more people that like it, YouTube knows you like it and it'll push it out there. And most importantly, if you aren't subscribed, I don't know why if you like plugin reviews, you're not subscribed. So click that subscribe button and click that bell notification so you could be made aware every time a new video comes up on Mixing Wednesdays. And guess what it is, Mixing Wednesdays? There might be 1 video, like in this case, there might be 3 videos that I've got a massive list. Comment down below if there's actually something else that you want to see. If you want to see a plugin tutorial, if I've kind of already done it, I'll pop you across that video because I'm not about to do it again, or something that you think is going to really get a good tutorial and get kind of what people want to watch, then comment down below. So like, subscribe, comment down below, and I will see you next week on Mixing Wednesday.